I am practicing my driving technique every day until I'm faster than Max Verstappen. The track that I'm practicing at is Portimao. I'm using the Ferrari 296 GT3. I'm using a fixed setup for this car, specifically the Challenge setup, the same one that is used for the Ferrari Challenge. And these are my settings for the weather and the track condition. So now we're 2.5 months into the grind without stopping, and I was still doing stupid mistakes. For instance, my track state was on generate, so it was always random what would happen to the track. It didn't have consistent rubber, so I decided to click off that option so I can decide what the track state is going to be without having different conditions each time. These are really basic things and I feel really stupid by not noticing them sooner, but nonetheless, I changed the track state and I put it exactly as the track state was at the time of the lap that I'm comparing myself. After doing that, I was able to be faster more consistently, which goes to show that the variations in rubber when I was training before also played a big role in me not being consistent sometimes and me being half a second slower or half a second faster sometimes. So now that I've settled it, I was able to do an even faster lap time, and I was really close, especially theoretically, to my goal lap, which means that the pace that I have is there. I just need to put all these sectors together so I can do one clean lap and get that lap time. It's easier said than done, of course, but it really gave me hope that I'm almost there. It's not impossible, and with a little bit more trying, I can actually make it. Okay, so in all seriousness, even though I was happy that I was getting faster, I had reached the point where I felt that I was getting a bit tired and I didn't really have the energy to start practicing after a while. And I wanted to share this with you because I think it's equally important to show you my process, not only when I'm training in the sim, but also when I'm doing nothing, because that's also a part of me practicing, honestly, because sometimes I just really need a break, and that was one of those times. And I really don't want to make it seem that I just keep practicing without taking any breaks, or I never lose motivation for what I'm trying to do, and sometimes I even get lazy. So I just decided to stop sim racing, stop practicing, and stop doing anything in relation to racing for 1 week, but that 1 week ended up being 3 weeks. But I gotta say that I really needed that break, because me trying to push myself so much and trying to be perfect with these laps, it was really paying a toll. And I was constantly thinking about how am I going to improve even by like half a tenth. Throughout the break, I also gotta say that I was a little bit afraid that as soon as I walked back into the sim, I would have lost all the progress that I had made in the past few months, and I would probably do like a second slower lap, and it would take another 3 to 4 weeks just to go back into the pace that I was before. Fortunately though, that didn't happen, and I was actually able to get back up to speed really relatively quickly. It only took me actually just 2-3 laps. It wasn't hard at all. I'm really happy to see that. So basically that showed me that the things that I've learned are not some things that are going to fade away by just taking a break and taking it easy for a few weeks. Of course, I mean, if I take a break that's too long, I'm pretty sure that I will start losing my pace, but for now, I'm happy to say that everything is going pretty well. And now I'm freshened up, so I can keep on doing what I'm doing and keep on improving until we finally reach this lap time. I'm not going to stop until I reach the goal lap that I have. Now, that being said, there are a few more things that I want to mention in regards to my steps moving forward, and also some critiques that you guys gave me in the previous video. So, first of all, one guy mentioned in the comments in my previous video was that my brakes and my throttle pedal inputs were intersecting, and those were happening especially during the initial braking phase. So as I was releasing the gas pedal, I was starting to brake, so there was like 10% throttle pressure still applied, while I was also stepping on the brakes, like 10-20% on the brakes. So I tried to clean that up, and I'm pretty happy to say that it took just a few laps to do that. I just needed to get the feeling in my feet of how I need to approach the pedals so I don't have intersections. And as you can see in my telemetry, it's not always perfect, but you can see some spots where it's actually pretty close to where I need to be. So I'm pretty happy with that, and if I keep this up, I'm not going to have this issue anymore. And I mean, I'm looking for the final 10th in the moment, so if I can improve on anything, even if it's like a small change, I'm going to try to do that. The other thing that people mentioned was to try and play around with the brake bias during the lap. So I don't have one consistent brake bias throughout the lap, but I change it throughout the corners so I get more rotation or less rotation depending on the corner I'm at. I haven't done that yet, but I'm planning on doing this moving forward. I think that's the only thing left that I can try out. That and also changing a little bit of my racing lines, because I've noticed that sometimes I'm starting to turn the car a bit too soon. I'm gaining time, I'm not actually losing a lot of time, but I've watched some laps that the pros have done then that are open for you to see on YouTube, and I've noticed that they're taking a bit of a wider entry in the corner, and I'm actually turning sooner than them. Now this issue I don't think is as big as it seems to be, because at the sector times I'm not losing that much time, but at the same time it's still costing me a few hundredths of a second, so I think I need to pay attention to that as well. So I'm gonna play around with the brake bias and my racing line at the same time to make sure that everything is as perfect as they can be. I'm not saying that there's only one approach to a corner, because I've seen some different laps from pro drivers and they take different racing lines. I'll just have to find the one that I feel like is giving me more time. But yeah, it's really funny because the racing line is a really basic concept, but I think it's holding a little bit of time in there. I never really thought that I would come to a point where I'm not really aiming to get tenths out of a corner, but just hundredths of a second and maybe even less. But yeah, every little bit counts at this point, and I'm really looking forward to see what the future holds. Like I said, I'm all freshened up now, and I'm ready to keep practicing, keep changing a few things, and do some proper fast laps. That's all I really wanted to share in this video, and I will leave you with my fastest lap so far. Enjoy!
Just 55 left of the finish.